originally started building Criya just for my own personal reasons. What we do at work, being a product leader in reputable companies, it's not easy. Even whether it is the smallest of projects that we touch to the biggest impact, there's a lot of learnings that we have. And how do we package it in a way that can empower many more to be able to take advantage of that? That was the whole mission.
Hello, welcome to the BeyondProduct podcast. My name is Moshe Mikanovsky and I'm your host. In this podcast, we are diving deep into what goes into making a truly successful and impactful digital products. We're exploring the unspoken, the behind the scenes, and everything under the hood of product development. Today on the show, I'm happy to have a powerhouse founder. She and her team will be a unicorn one day, so you should follow her. I'm really sure about that. I'm talking about the one and only Deb Dutta, or she loves to be called Deb Dutta, founder and CEO of Criya. Criya is an all-in-one platform that helps experts monetize their expertise. World-class experts are using Criya AI to build their portfolio in seconds, craft offers, and increase revenue and retention with clients. Deb has been featured on Forbes, New York Times, TechCrunch, and CBS, and Criya is backed by Y Combinator and other venture capitals. Deb, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Moshe. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Absolutely. And you are joining us from Silicon Valley, I believe, right?
From San Francisco, yeah.
From San Francisco. Yeah, I don't know if we had yet anyone from the Valley. We kind of, not on purpose, stay away from it, but I'm happy that you're here.
I am glad because I feel like almost everyone is from Valley. So I'm glad that I'm one of your first.
Absolutely. It's actually quite interesting because when I talk with people from the industry, from wherever they are, they're like, oh, yes, there is the Valley and then there is the rest of the world. I don't know if you guys live over there as well.
Well, we live in the bubble, so it's hard to tell what happens outside the bubble, but I think I can agree.
Yeah. But you're originally from India, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Bangalore, India, and my education and everything, and my undergrad was in India, and I came to Carnegie Mellon to do my master's in computer science. So that's how I started.
Oh, very nice. And why did you choose San Francisco, or how did you get to San Francisco eventually?
It's a good question. So I actually came to CMU to do my master's, and I basically thought I started my career as an engineer at Microsoft. So I got my internship in Seattle, and I absolutely loved Seattle. I actually moved to California for love, not for a job, as many people
Oh,
do.
very nice. That's a better reason.
uh,
That's a better reason to get anywhere.
right? Yes, I moved here for my partner, and obviously the opportunities were fantastic over here, and kind of the rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. People ask me why I'm in Canada of all places. Like, and it's just happened. I follow my wife. No, she came with me, so it's not like we. I met her, in Canada, but I can definitely see how life takes you places this way. But San Francisco is a great place to be, right?
Absolutely. We lived in different
Yes.
parts of California. Now we actually live in the heart of San Francisco. It's a great place to be as a founder. To be honest, it's
Yeah.
really a great ecosystem.
I've heard a lot of stories about that, so maybe I will hear more today about it.
Sure, happy
You're
to share.
absolutely, and I mentioned Y Combinator before, and Y Combinator is also in San Francisco, I believe, right?
That's true. So like it's actually in Mountain View, not in San Francisco. Although
You
sadly,
see,
when
to me,
I
it's all
went
the same.
through it is, but sadly when I went through Y Combinator, it was during COVID. And so our
Um,
entire everything was online. So we didn't actually go to the
wow.
Y Combinator, the incubator space or anything like that. So
So you didn't have the campus experience of the Combinator.
yeah,
I
yeah,
see. I see.
yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure it is an experience by itself. So I feel
Always.
for you. But the more important thing is really to have that support of Y Combinator, right?
100%. Yeah, I think the network, the group partners, they really went over and about to like make themselves accessible and stuff. So we didn't necessarily feel the pains of not being there in person, but still the
Mhm.
experience is in itself a whole
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. The nice thing also is that I follow you for some time now, and I should mention really that I'm a client of Criya. I'm a customer. That's how I got to know you. And we'll talk about it in a second. You know what Criya is all about and what we're doing. But I've been following you for since I met you through Criya, and I'm really impressed all the time about how you are really paying it forward. It seems like all the lessons that you have learned in the past, you are sharing with others. You're very involved in women in tech organizations, and I think also immigrants in tech. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I've seen many different areas that you're actually involved in and teaching other people. So tell me a bit about that.
Thank you, firstly, Moshe, for one is being an amazing partner. I don't think of anyone as a client. I think every one of you have been amazing partners through this journey. And
Mm,
truthfully, I think the reason I'm able to even do any of this is I originally started building Kriya just for my own personal reasons. I felt like, what we do at work, it's not easy. Being a product leader in, reputable companies, even whether it is the smallest of projects that we touch to the biggest impact, there's a lot of learnings that we have. And how do we package it in a way that can empower many more to be able to, take advantage of that? That was the whole
mhm,
mission. I wanted to do this before Kriya. I tried to do this through mentoring on women in product and like, trying to write articles and so on. But what better way to facilitate that, with by directly like having the human touch and like actually having that conversation with someone. And so that's
mhm,
really how we started. And to be honest, the beauty is people like you have actually validated that for me, right? Like
mhm,
as a founder, it's only a I only come up with a vision. I don't know how exactly it will manifest. It is
mhm,
every single individual that you have come in. And I remember the days of Slack where you would say, Deb, like we should change this, we should try that, and so on. And those are ideas for us, because obviously I don't have all the ideas. All I can do
mhm.
is learn and facilitate and make it better. So it's been a fantastic journey. And that's why, like I said, you're not clients, you are our partners.
Nice. I like that. I like that. And and it's that's really interesting because a lot of the things that you're saying sounds to me like you are talking like a product manager, and that's your background as well, right? Before
Yes. Yeah.
you launched and founded Kriya, you've been in several positions. You mentioned already that you started as a developer, but you moved into
Yeah.
product management eventually.
Yes. So my journey was not necessarily very conventional, but now I guess it is. Like back in the day when PMing was not that easy. I mean, it's not easy to get into. It still isn't easy to get into. But those days, I think you had to have an MBA to get into product. And it
Mm,
wasn't something that, people were actively hiring for. So a lot of what I did was, after several years in a job, like when I was an engineer for several years, you start to realize, am I having the most impact that I can? And
mm,
sometimes I would question it, because I would look at, people around me in my company. I'm like, that dude is doing I'm working till 1 a.m. Okay. But somehow he's having a bigger impact than I am. So
mhm,
maybe this is not the place this is not my zone of genius. And I tried
mm.
a few different things. I thought maybe I should try project management, technical marketing. I tried a few different things, and I was like, I found my home in product.
Right.
And
Interesting.
I eventually went on to be head of product at PayPal, so as to lead our entire AI-driven customer success experiences for agents and so on. So lots of excellent learnings there, which I bring into Kriya.
I'm
But
sure.
yeah, that's been the journey. Yeah.
We'll talk about AI in a bit because a lot of what you do at Korea and the central thing this day at Korea is AI driven. And I really want to get into that. But even before that, one of the things you said before about how you had ideas, but you're not sure that they are the right ideas and you really get it from the users. And I always kind of envy product managers or people that work on products that are used by product people because we probably are the happiest people to give feedback because we know how hard it is to get feedback.
Yes. It was a blessing, to be honest. It's a blessing. Like for us, like having that community of actual product people, because you're literally, I don't even have to explain to you that when you come up with a feature request, I would just ask more details and you guys already know what it takes to implement it. And you're like, yeah, 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 take your time. Here's probably a good way to design this. I was co-designing with you guys. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, but Kriya is not just for product managers. The product managers, I think, was where you were comfortable with
Got
and
it.
where you try to solve your own problem. But tell us a bit more. What is in the core? What is the vision of Kriya?
So my whole vision really was anyone that has knowledge to share should be able to offer that to an audience
Hmm.
that deserves it. Right?
Hmm.
So we have gone from initially product managers who were offering mentoring services to full-time coaches who have pretty much like they started at Kriya as part-time. They used to work in a big company and now they've gone on to launch $30,000 a month in bookings. Like that's
Hmm.
they've pretty much run there. They don't need a job. So this is their job. Like that's the extent of growth. They're full on coaches. And then
Hmm.
we've started to see people who are actually starting to offer fractional consulting services to other
Hmm.
startups. So Kriya has helped them manifest that full circle. Like you start with mentoring, which is a little bit more lightweight, to turn it into a more professional thing where you're actually offering coaching to now, let's go for the big guns. Let's actually offer this as a consulting because booking high ticket clients is like the end game, right? And
Hmm.
helping you like fulfill that end full funnel, that's kind of where we've seen the growth of our users.
Yeah, I see. I see. Yeah, so maybe just to add, I'm a very little fish there. I'm not one of those people that Deb mentioned, but who knows? Maybe one day. Um, so excellent. So basically, it's a whole platform that allows you those people, those partners, or allow us. I would include myself in that to really create. Very easily create the way for us to connect with our clients, right?
Yes. So it is not just, so I talk about it in terms of reach, revenue, retention, right?
Okay.
So, because the moment you start thinking yourself as a business, you need to start thinking about the entire top to bottom funnel. So when you think about reach, what are the things you need to do so that you are actually accessible to your clients? So
Hmm.
part of our 2024 vision is actually to really double down on reach because I think what we did a good job of is like implementing the revenue part, which is okay, now that you have someone who's hooked in, right? Okay, how do you quickly craft an offer? How do you generate a contract? How do you accept the payment? Different types of payments, like recurring payments, this, that,
Right.
and manage that entire client base. We also focus to an extent on retention, but I think that's the next focus for us is reach and retention. So in terms of
Mhm.
reach, this is where AI has a huge part to play for us because many people who come in, no matter where the size of your business is, you want to have a larger reach.
Mhm.
Because if you think about if you think about true businesses, especially solopreneur businesses, right? Um, they say you should have 90 days of pipeline to have 30 days of revenue, which
Mhm.
means you need to be doing this exercise of outreach, generating content for consistently 90 days to close on 30 days. For that reason, we actually are focusing a little bit on like as soon as you come on board, what are the absolute necessary checklists you need to have, and then with that AI persona that we develop for you, how can you generate more content that will
Mhm.
help you drive more conversions. And then
Right.
in terms of reach, we focus a little on retention. We focus a little bit more on email nurturing. If people have come into your funnel, can you create email campaigns to like share the content that's not just on LinkedIn but also through email?
Mhm.
Those are the two areas that we're focusing on, and AI is a game changer for this because you don't have to do all of that on your own.
Right. And many of those things are the things that everyone that goes into coaching or into freelancing in sharing their expertise or selling their expertise, we didn't go there in order to be salespeople. We went there because we really love to share that. So we don't like doing all of that stuff, right?
To be honest, that's the hardest part, right? Like when you wear the business hat on, actively everyone is a salesperson, right? Like to be quite honest, we're all salespeople. I believe that. I read a book actually that says, I have to remember the name of it. Uh, even when we are showing up at work, when we are
Hmm.
trying to pitch an idea to our boss, even when
Hmm.
we're trying to pitch ourselves for a promotion, you are
Hmm.
in some shape or form positioning yourself, sharing a value that is of equal exchange. When they give you this, we get you this, right?
True.
So selling is part of being human.
Mm.
I think it's about removing the tags and making it so seamless so that it serves your purpose.
Mm. Hmm. It's a very interesting point because as product managers, we always have to think about our how do we deal with the sales team and how do we don't have frictions with them, etc. And to me, the first time that I really understood, I still don't think I understand completely, but I really felt that I understand much better what sales people have to go through was when I was trying to sell something. So I went through a month of trying to sell. It doesn't matter what I was selling, but that was so hard for me. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's not an easy thing. There is a lot of things that it made me much more empathetic to the salespeople. But you're absolutely right. I was also looking for ways I can connect with people that will not look like sale. It will look like a relationship.
And that's when it's a good salesperson. Honestly, if you don't make it look like a sale, you actually make it look like a relationship, then you have a fantastic salesperson.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people it's natural for them, some of not, are not. And maybe that's where AI comes into the picture to make it more personal or more natural.
And I think that is part of our vision is when you go to, let's say, ChatGPT, and it's such a blessing to have, that invention in our time, in right now. A
Hmm.
challenge is there's heavy prompt engineering and so on that is required. Over time, everybody starts sounding the same. Like now we know
Yes.
when an article is ChatGPT. So part of
Yes.
what we are doing is you help develop the persona within your own profile so
Hmm.
that we don't just capture like voice and tone, but we actually capture the way you frame sentences, the way you greet someone, the way you give
Hmm.
advice. So based on those hooks, right, we are able to essentially generate content on your behalf that will sound like you. You can
Hmm.
also add specific links to various pages that you have written. Like even if they're not on the Kriya page, let's say you wrote a Medium blog, but you wrote it, or you wrote a
Hmm.
LinkedIn article and you wrote it, you can just add
Hmm.
that link. It'll become part of your AI persona. So
Ah, okay.
tomorrow, any article and content that you want to generate will have that context. So
Hmm.
that's the vision that we have.
I see. Okay, so I believe you call it a digital twin, right? So this
Yes.
is this is creating a digital twin of myself, i-
So yes,
in
we
very
are
simple words.
playing with the we're playing with the marketing campaign around it. To be quite honest, like AI twin
Mhm.
can mean so many different things, and we're
Mhm.
trying to basically become very intentional about this. Is basically built to help you with three things: reach, revenue, retention. So
Okay.
it's not going to go off and be like a whole AI avatar that does like acrobatics on your behalf, right? Because like people have different ideas, but that's the way
Uh-huh.
we're thinking about it.
So yeah, when I was thinking about that digital twin and was like, how can you actually create something that will mimic me, and not only that, would it be able to do many other things? I'm not talking about preparing coffee for me because I can go to the kitchen and make my coffee, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about like if I was, for example, a salesperson, would it be able to sell for me? Or if I was I don't know, a coach, but I also want to understand what my coachee on a regular basis do, and then
Yeah.
change my coaching style to them, or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. These are great questions. And this is why we have to be very conscious about the promise of Gen AI
Hmm.
versus um, what it takes to actually build this. Because I
Hmm.
think the use cases that you've talked about, absolutely, right? But no, when you think about a chatbot is a very specific type of technology. Adding an LLM to it is not going to dramatically change actually what a chatbot does, right?
Hmm.
So there are concepts of dialogue flows, decision trees, and so on. There's a reason these things were built. So even before an LLM came in, right? The fact that a chatbot goes through, you know, you go through like a certain flow of dialogue. And then from
Hmm.
there, maybe you need, if it's a sales, whenever a chatbot is actually designed, there's always an end goal in mind. I think it is called TOCE. I'm trying to remember what the framework is, but you start with an end goal. Is the goal
Hmm.
to collect leads? Because the
Hmm.
flow that the chatbot needs to go through to enable you to give your email address, let's say, is what a lead is, very different
Hmm.
from from selling a product which probably needs a two-way, like a sales back and forth. It's a different kind of
Right.
implementation, right? To, let's say, writing your keynote speech for an upcoming event,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So versus in the coaching aspect, where do you plug it in? Is it more so just to like vet out this candidate's frequently asked questions, so it's really more like a one-way dialogue, just for a question?
Hmm.
So this is why I like to call out that when someone says we're building a digital twin, great, it's a fantastic promise, but it's not going to do
Uh-huh.
everything that easily.
Right.
And to do
Right.
that, it's an extremely heavy engineering and machine learning undertaking.
Absolutely.
So it is important to keep that in mind when setting expectations for an AI twin, and that's why we are re-evaluating the language that we use to communicate
I
this,
see.
because we don't want to disappoint. We are very
Yeah.
much, the mission of Kriya is the same. We want
Yeah.
you to have reach, revenue, retention, and how does AI help you with that?
Yes. Yes. No, so this is actually, we are living right now. I don't know if this is pivot, but the framing of what Korea is about and how it's actually going to help the specific persona and specific users, which is great. And also another point over there about AI in general is that it's not AI out of context, it's AI in context. And the context here is those three things that you made a very specific decision. This is what we want to solve for our clients.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Given our clientele, to be honest, coaching is a very interesting profession where the main value of a coach is the coach, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So we cannot take the coach away from coaching.
Hmm.
So we have to make sure that the AI twin, or whatever we want to call it, is aiding that ultimate, if it's driving a conversion, if it is driving
Hmm.
maybe generating assets for your sale and so on. But it cannot take away the coach from the coach. You're kind
Right.
of entirely devaluing who you are then. So yeah.
And maybe that's the definition of, or the problem of scale or scaling in the coaching business. How can you scale a
Exactly.
person?
100%. And the ways to scale the person is, we've realized, and we've been doing this now for some time, right? So like, I've also learned through experimentation about where is, because there is technology and then there's product market fit. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the AI twin can maybe represent you, and even if we like dedicate epochs of training and find the exact AI Moshe who can really, really coach like you, does
Yeah.
Moshe really want that?
Right.
It
Hmm.
may or may not be. If you
Yeah.
equate it to a sales experience, if you can duplicate 75 salespeople, they may hop on a call, have the voice, and like start selling. Does the customer
Hmm.
want that? Because the
Hmm.
customer may think that you don't even have the time to talk to me. What are the chances that you will actually be of service to me? So it is
Yeah.
about identifying the right mark. There are certain areas where this makes sense, and there are certain areas where it doesn't. So
Right.
it's very,
Right.
very context specific.
Yes. And the other thing that I really love about it is that it personalized things based on my content. Because today, like you
Yes.
said, when I get people reaching out to me on LinkedIn with different messages, I know they didn't write it. I know that it was an AI that wrote it. And
Yeah.
in the beginning, I didn't know that until a couple of people kind of admitted to it. They told me, "Oh yeah, we connected, but the first two or three messages wasn't me; it was an AI." I'm like, "Ah, okay," which was
Yeah.
all that, the behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
But with so tell us a bit. Let's go a bit deeper on that. What should I expect there? What is going to be like? Is it really going to feel like me, so other people will not even know?
Here's what I would say. If you, I've had this question yesterday. I was at a panel 2 days ago where people talked about, oh, like what all can it do for me, right? Can it write
Hmm.
my essay? Can it write my blog? Can it write my TED speech? If I get invited to the TED stage, can it write my TED speech? I had another question where someone said, can it write my investor pitch? Like, I'm a great founder. I love the idea. I know what I'm doing, but I don't know how to pitch. So these are real use cases where really AI
Mm-hmm.
can help. But it is always the same model. If you, when you're writing a story, this is storytelling. If you're writing a story, you need to come up with the start, the end, and what the middle is, the meat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then feeding it to AI will essentially augment it to basically fill it exactly the way, not just with, it's not just about how it's sounding exactly like you also want to sound heavily articulate, right? Like sometimes that is part of our challenge, right? Like how do we
Yeah.
articulate things well? So it is
Yeah.
with that context. So like if it knows that I'm founder and CEO of Criya, I'm a woman, like I have diversity specific, interests, versus let's say it's Moshe who has very specific interest in empowering, it's different community. It will augment the conversation with that context.
Mm-hmm.
It will try and use language that and examples that you have used in the past. But if you
Mm-hmm.
start with AI, it's probably going to sound not very different. So because the
Right.
whole thing is that I feel like people are trying to take the shortcut, and the more shortcuts you take, the less your output is going to be desirable,
Right.
right? So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's using it as a
So,
tool. So yeah.
so you're saying if someone is, I don't know if I should use the word lazy, but if someone doesn't want to do the work, using AI does not really going to help them much to become
It
unique
will.
or to
I mean,
become,
it helps. Yeah, it
yeah, but
definitely
not to
helps,
become unique
right?
or their own voice, right?
And that's the thing, right? Like, totally. I think there is, because then what AI has done is it's leveled the playing field. So
Yes.
let's say on average, 80% of us are lazy. We're all going to go to AI and create our TED speech. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to stand out? Probably you, because you wrote 25 sentences first to begin with and then fed it to AI. And so you actually stand out. So
Yeah.
the thing is that AI has leveled the playing field. And if you are not using AI already, you are behind, but
Yeah.
everybody is now. So how do you stand out? That's the difference.
Absolutely. So tell me a bit, how much information do I need to have, do you think, or based on your, I'm sure you already experiment with that. How many pieces of information that I wrote or said or talked? I mean, I have some podcasts, so that's good already. But I'm sure that other people don't. So maybe they just talk with their friends or they talk on meetings and they can record them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you think will be enough to create something unique there?
So I wouldn't overly anchor on amount of information. I would anchor more on type of information. So we've
Okay.
seen like a healthy mix. Yeah, like so if you have a dialogue like this, right? The thing
Hmm.
that happens is that our conversation flows are meandering. Versus if you were to write about your thoughts, right? It is a continuous thought process, and like the way you communicate is very structured. So the more structured it is, obviously the bot is able to, or the model is able to absorb it better, because it just is, right? That's technology for you. The more
Hmm.
you meander through conversations, you start a topic here but then you jump somewhere else, where I feel like that is most valuable if someone is trying to replicate your voice. Because
Hmm.
actual like voice replication, like there you need to know how you pause, how you speak, and so on. So this is
I
where we've
see.
seen like the type of content will dictate the type of output you're seeking.
So
That's
if I
that's
take,
essentially important.
yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So if I take the transcript of our discussion, would that be a better input?
I mean, anyway, it works on transcripts right now for basically what we would use it for. I would
Hmm.
run the experiment and we should try it out. I have found the best results with written content,
Hmm. Hmm.
and actually giving specific types of inputs which will help you frame your sentences. That is essential.
Uh-huh.
I would also not have a podcast where it's a two-way dialogue versus you giving an entire, like at least like 80% of the conversation should be you,
Right.
because
I
then
see.
it
Okay.
has majority of you, right?
I see.
Things like that. Yeah.
This is really interesting, and I would really be curious to see, how it does it for different people. And I know that AI and the models behind AI are quite black box to most people. Is there insights you can tell us about how it works behind the scenes?
Yeah, for sure. Without getting into too much detail, right? So really what
Hmm.
the model is I mean, it's a language model, right? It's a large language model. So this is why I said like it is important about the way your data is structured or your content is structured, because really what you're trying
Right.
to do is draw associations between words, basically. So in your content, if certain words have closer associations, it's almost like a web, right? Like, oh, when Deb says this topic, these are the relevant topics that she has talked about, or these are the relevant
Hmm.
phrases she has associated with it. So tomorrow,
Hmm.
if someone comes and asks a question that is about AI twins, it'll pull up the information that is closest in that graph, basically, right?
Hmm.
So this is why I said the meandering conversations can be misleading because you jump
Right.
topics, right? Which is why
Right.
it's hard.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, end of the day, it's a language model, so it is entirely based on the content that you give it. There are two parts to this. There is vectorizing of the content. So you have one large model and you essentially create
Hmm.
vectors, and like you
Hmm.
do embeddings and so on for it. The other
Okay.
alternate is you can completely fine tune the model, which means you
Hmm.
literally make the data in as part of the original model itself, so that
Hmm.
this is a complete representation of you. To do that, we've run all these experiments. So to do that, we actually take a very slim down we don't take like a big model. We take a very
Hmm.
clean model that has almost no content, and we fine tune like the number of parameters, like the billions of parameters that we add, so that it's very clean. Like it basically just knows language. Okay, it doesn't know
Okay.
much about what happened in in New York last week. It doesn't know that,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it's a language model, and then we only add Moshi data to it. So it is truly speaking like Moshi. Like that's when you have a fully Moshi speaking model. It's fully fine tuned on you. That's a
Interesting.
very expensive hardware experiment to like, because fine tuning takes time, takes a
I'm
lot of
sure.
hardware. Also, flexibility is low because once it's on the model, you can't remove it. You have to pretty much clean it and start again,
I
right?
see.
So versus if you're doing models, but largely to an extent it's fine tuned, but it's largely working off of vector DB, then you have more flexibility in it. So things like that.
Yeah. No, thank you for that because I've been doing a bit of AI product management in myself in the past, and it was always kind of like magical to me, even if I try to understand how it's been built. So I
Yeah.
know that it's definitely a black box for most of the universe. So it's
Yeah.
really nice to hear a bit more behind the scenes of that. What about the one question that comes to me all the time is what if I use specific words that are maybe not the right words because I'm not English is not my first language, so I'm still always like have this specific way of phrasing words or even
Yeah.
typos sometimes that I always say
Yeah.
have the same typos. Would it
Yeah.
kind of learn that and also mimic me there?
Yes. So that's why I'm glad we had the conversation about the two types. So if you go with the fully fine-tuned model, that's where it would do it. Like, and there's actually one version of a Deb model. There were like, I think 7 Deb models running at one point. There was one which was completely a clean model, which only
Uh-huh.
had my conversations on it.
Hmm.
It would literally talk like me. Like it will even say the words literally. Like it would literally say the exact same words. Like my co-founder, CTO Danis, sometimes I remember the other day we were trying to fill out like a form because we were trying to apply for some credits on some platform. And I
Uh-huh.
was traveling. He just chatted with my bot. He just chatted with
Uh-huh.
me and was like, Deb, like, how would you describe Kriya? What's the value proposition? What is this thing? He literally just chatted with it. And like, he was
Yeah.
like, it literally felt like I was chatting with you. It will do that. Like I
Uh-huh.
said, that's a very expensive experiment. Um,
Right.
there are models which will create that, and we can create that if we are compensated for it. Basically,
Yeah, of course.
most
Of
people
course.
don't need that. To be quite honest, it depends on what your purpose is. Most people
Hmm.
don't need it to sound like that. Most people need it to sound accurate, sound
Hmm.
appropriate, but more importantly, leverage your context. There's persona, there's likeness, and there's context. We heavily
Hmm.
anchor on like persona and context, and we try to not anchor heavily on likeliness because it's a different
I
use
see.
case. You know what I'm saying? Um,
And this is actually very interesting because one question I wanted to ask is which Deb did you like the most? And and the other question is about like the real life situation. Like you said, not everyone needs that. How do you decide what people really need? Part of it, I mean, even if you create different models and you have different price points for them, that could happen.
Yeah,
If someone really wants the
totally.
most amazing Deb, let them pay for
Yeah.
it, right?
Yes. So basically, that's basically what we experimented and we learned. And we are not a research lab, right? Like we are basically at the brink of innovation, but ultimately we are here to serve our client base.
Hmm.
So what we understood is, having run these experiments over the last quarter, we also understand the unit economics of what it takes to develop that extreme likeness of a model. And we will keep running those. Like as a startup, that's, I guess, part of the luxury also we have, but also not a luxury is that we get to come up with these incredible ideas, but not all of them can see the light of day. We cannot take it all the way into mass production, so we have some beta models running of some users. So one
Hmm.
example is like we have like a TEDx speaker who wanted to make a test run of it. Like he has coached 2,500 speakers who've gone on the TED stage. So
Hmm.
he was like, I do a lot of this, and like there's a lot of specifics that he would want. There are some others. So these are some examples, right? They're willing to pay for it as well. For us as
Hmm.
a business, we have to make a decision on where do we, stop the experiment and start bringing it into market so that majority of our users can actually use it and find value in it.
Yes, yes. It's an interesting point what you said over there that you're not a research organization, but from my experience, working in very similar situations, the data scientists and the machine learning scientists, they always wanted to do the science. They wanted to create. Do you see that also in your team?
Oh my goodness, you should see the back and forth I have with my CTO, because they had the blast. They had a blast going and like doing this, because it's
I'm
always,
sure.
it was amazing. Because I mean, being at the, everything is an innovation, right? Like not like we are, one is more exciting than the other. But the thing that we encountered when we were building the AI stuff is it's truly greenfield. um,
Hmm.
there aren't white papers about this. Like we had to literally run the experiment, and we were partnering with Google to figure out what are the hardware needs. Like everything is a new learning.
Absolutely,
So people loved
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Very nice. No, this is really exciting. So, how far are you right now in this journey? Like, what is already available for people that they can actually say, yes, this is me, and this is my. I don't know if I should use the digital twin, but this is my digital representation here. Versus your plan in the near future and the future.
Yeah, so I would say 2024 is when we are planning to start releasing this out, and we are targeting ourselves specifically on the use case where our clientele, like you, Moshe, can actually use this to generate your own reach relevant content.
Hmm.
So it would be about generating emails. It would be about promoting your offers. It would be like a one click that generates an entire like a proposal for you. Things like that is what we are focusing on.
Hmm.
And like if you want to generate a video course, you want an outline for it, it'll actually be based on content that you have fed it, right? So it's not
Hmm.
going to come up with content on its own. Like if you let's say said these are like 5 medium blogs that I've written, and you feed it,
Yeah.
now generate a video course outline for me, or like a masterclass outline for me, or a keynote speech outline for me. It would be,
Hmm.
those are the type of things that we are focusing on, because
I see.
that's mainly where our users are asking us to step in.
Right. So it's a good time right now to really prepare all of those articles and materials so it's ready.
Yeah. Yes, that'll be a great idea.
If our audience did not do it yet, right?
Yeah.
Let's move a bit about your founder journey. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh boy. All right. This is probably one of the most hard, like this is the hardest part of actually the founder journey, is that first step.